Hello and welcome back to radio. So this is lecture 3 of 12, and we're currently looking at news, sport, traffic, and weather, okay, as the 4 pillars. In the first class, we started looking at news, and we continued looking at news in the previous lecture, where we looked at how you would broadcast a news bulletin in an emergency, what you would need from a management perspective as well as on air. And then we looked at citizen journalism, aka normal people who are not journalists bringing the stories to you. And we said that news is the segment of content that a listener can obtain every hour in a neatly packed bulletin. And sport, on the other hand, is important because it's a particular type of news that garners a lot of interest from any listener base. News broadcasting is really 2 separate jobs. The first is covering that big story, and the other is covering everything else. When disaster strikes, how can you be at your best, or at least not at your worst? What a lot of stations have been doing is they've been partnering up with TV stations, making sure that they're able to pool their resources if anything happens, to be able to still best serve their community. Since you can't predict whose transmitter will still be functioning in certain types of emergencies, it's a good idea to arrange in advance for any stations in your cluster or in your area that have news staffs to record reports for stations that don't. Because normally when these kind of disasters strike, we tend to not have enough staff members to cover everything that's happening, especially in the evenings. If we look at Geller Media International's emergency preparedness points, that's here on the screen. Does your staff know how to maintain credibility in order to collect, gather, and verify that information is correct before it goes on air? Does your staff know how to get in touch with local authorities on the scene who can give you credible information? Do you have a list with everyone's numbers? What is the right time and place for listener calls? What role should Twitter and other social media play in disaster or major event coverage? So you should have some of an idea about what would be expected of you, whether you are a news reporter or whether you are simply a presenter at a radio station, okay? As a presenter, you should also know how to follow the emergency protocols. For today, though, we're going to be looking more in detail at traffic and weather. So if you want to follow along, we are using both textbooks once again. So Next Level Radio from page 199 to page 206, and then Beyond Powerful Radio from page 259 up until page 264. So writing and reporting for traffic. While not everybody drives or is driven to their daily destinations, especially less now in COVID, it's safe to say that most of us have experienced the frustration of getting stuck in traffic. The car radio has been the go-to place to try and avoid such traffic. Issues that can make us late for our appointments, for work, and for school. Since the development and prolific nature of mobile phones, many people, particularly professional drivers or people that spend a lot of time driving for work, use their cell phones to navigate around traffic. I personally use Waze every single time I'm on my way anywhere. Our modern phones have fantastic navigation software and maps that render traditional traffic reports on a radio a little archaic. However, if eliminating traffic is not a choice, and your listeners are going to be affected by and participate in traffic as a daily lived experience, then on-air traffic reports are a very useful thing and should deliver value to the listeners. As much as, like I just said, I use Waze, but I still listen to the traffic reports on the radio. Traffic is an integral part of information for personality brands. As long as traffic reports have revenue attached to them, A programmer's appeal that management cancel the traffic service will likely fall on deaf ears. There are many car manufacturers, fast food restaurants, and other types of businesses that value the fast-paced live delivery of a traffic report in real time on air, while they have a captive market listening to the radio in their cars. For this reason, the sponsorship of traffic reports that are brought to you by these types of brands and companies are popular. Just by virtue of a traffic report being on air as a piece of audio product that thousands or hundreds of thousands of listeners will hear, it's important to coach on-air teams on how to deliver better reports and to prevent them from throwing a bunch of road names together in a jumbled to-do list style of reporting. Program managers have limited time with presenters, especially when there are several that have to be monitored daily. So traffic reports and how they are delivered tend to be low on the priority lists. However, spending some time on them usually has a dramatic effect on traffic delivery and success. So what does a comprehensive traffic report look like? A good traffic report contains real-time information about anything and everything that has the potential to increase a commuter's normal or average travel time and route to get from A to B during drive time, which is between 6 and 9 in the mornings and between 4 and 7 in the evenings. It should tell you if there's congestion, where that congestion is happening, and what is causing it. It should focus not only on major fatal accidents and natural disasters or severe weather phenomena, but also on subpar road conditions, poor visibility on the road because of smoke or fog or mist, electronic failure, citywide power outages caused by Eskom, meaning that traffic lights will become defective, short-time traffic lights, detours, roadworks, special events leading to road closures, protest actions or marches, and even animals either being stuck on or trying to cross the road. According to the INRIX 2017 Global Traffic Scorecard, South Africa has some of the worst traffic congestion in the world and is placed 8th in the global ranking. The findings also show that South African drivers spend an average of 36 hours per year in peak hour congestion. This immediately answers the who and the what, and partially the why of your story. The goal here is to assist South African commuters who are traveling by road and rail in becoming aware of and hopefully avoiding traffic. Therefore, although the when of traffic reports should be every time anything happens on the roads or rails that will impede, delay, or derail people's commute in that area that you are reporting on, more often than not, these reports will require much more attention and contain much more information between Monday to Friday during the rush hour and expected peak traffic times. So rush hour is typically considered to be any time between 6 and 10. And then again between 3 and 8. However, it's important to remember that these times will always vary depending on the country, the region, the city, and even the road in question. There are also different expected peak traffic hours. For example, during lunch, school pickup times, or at the time of a major event. The where of traffic reporting depends largely on the geographic footprint and scope of the station that is broadcasting the information. Traffic reports are also typically very time limited, airing at the time of a news bulletin or during a busy half-hour bulletin or a content-packed drive show. Stations that broadcast this type of information to a national audience would be restricted in that they would only be able to cover 3 to 5 of the most congested cities or regions in the country, all with their very unique and very many networks, routes, and roads. In the case of South Africa, these cities or regions would be Cape Town, Pretoria, Johannesburg, Durban, Port Elizabeth, and Bloemfontein. The enormous scope of coverage is limiting because you can't cover everything, whether you deem it important or not. There's only room to cover crucial incidents that have occurred mainly on national highways, main roads, and peak hour traffic hotspots in one area, and to quickly move on in order to cover as much of the scope as possible. Meanwhile, radio stations that are more local focused will allow the report to be slightly lengthier and more detailed. It can therefore include more specific or alternative types of incidents, like fallen shrubbery on a road, or a gaggle of geese stuck on a traffic circle. The thing that makes a traffic report more credible is the why and the how of it. Telling someone not to take their regular route to school or to work will never be effective or helpful without telling them why this will not work on a particular day. What can improve on matters even more is being able to tell them exactly how to avoid the delay and which alternative routes to use. All of the information you need to compile and present a traffic report can be gathered from engaging with or monitoring the feeds of local, regional, and provincial traffic departments, or information sent to you via calls, texts, emails, WhatsApps, and other social media from road users and commuters. Primarily, this information is sourced from the internet. It can easily be found on specialized traffic monitoring websites, traffic-related Twitter feeds, as well as applications designed specifically not only to track and monitor traffic, but also to inform you as to how long the delays will be and which alternative routes are available to you. Organize the information in such a way that if you are reporting on more than one city or region, you group all of its incidents together and report on them all at once, before moving to the next city or region. Within that regional information, you can further organize those region-specific incidents into their own categories, such as defective traffic lights, areas affected by load shedding, vehicle collisions, stationary vehicles, reduced visibility, etc. In so doing, whomever you are relaying the information to will know when to pay closer attention and how to overcome the traffic challenge that you may be presenting to them. In Next Level Radio on page 202, there's an example 5C at the top, which is a traffic report, okay? So please go and look at that example. Traffic reports need to be stories that traffic reporters are telling. If an app like Waze or an in-car system like a TomTom can move information about traffic faster than a live radio traffic report that is read at certain times on the hour, then it's important to play the radio strengths. So by adding humanity and personality to the report, instead of just reading a list of streets and routes affected. The traffic report should therefore be personalized and entertaining. Making people laugh relaxes them in a stressful traffic environment, which means doing so will add a service to the listener at the same time as giving them the valuable information that they need. So for example, something like saying cars are backed up could be said in a humanized way, such as, what a morning it is in Josie. Traffic is backed up because whatever the reason is. Or cars are slowed down to look at the scene. Could again be humanized by saying something along the lines of, if you're aiming to get into a meeting first thing, add 15 minutes to your journey time because ... A last example, traffic terminology might read, might say, police are clearing the accident. But humanized traffic terminology might say, work from home today if you can, because the roads are a hot mess. Okay, so that's just examples of how you can translate traffic-specific terms into humanized radio traffic reports. To help listeners understand what to look out for and how to adjust their journeys in real time, you can also use landmarks instead of just street names in your traffic reports. So for example, instead of saying on the corner of Glenhove and Oxford Roads, you can say on Oxford Road in Rosebank opposite the McDonald's. Traffic reports need to be content relevant. Remember, everything that a listener hears is content and needs to be rewarding for more than just a paper or the screen. Remember, everything that a listener hears is content and needs to be rewarding for more than just the paper or the screen on which it's written. That means that even something as seemingly pedestrian as a traffic report needs to fit in with the overall style and tone of the station. Every radio station's presenters and programmers are aware of the most urbanized, congested, and densely populated areas in their broadcast footprint. They are also aware, particularly in the case of regional and community radio stations, where the big employment buildings and busy student campuses are. This makes it possible for a smart traffic reporter to combine information found online with real-time input from drivers on the road and to personalize what they are saying in the traffic report. Don't forget that not everybody drives to work, so ensure that you include local train and bus times and routes in traffic reports. In Johannesburg, many people use the bus system and the Gautrain to commute. In Cape Town, people extensively use the MyCity bus network as well as Metro Rail. Add this to taxis, which transport more than 15 million commuters daily and employ more than 600,000 people, and you suddenly have a lot of texture and a vast audience with which to communicate. Something to remember is that the participants on a show team who deliver the traffic report very seldom do just that job. They also have their own personality and make contributions to the broader team that produces a total listening experience. When moving from an on-air discussion, an interview, or a song, the traffic reporter can create a content signpost that connects the content with the traffic report in an entertaining and smooth way. An example will be something like, "That's my favorite Adele track, and I think we're going to need another one because everyone on the roads today is going to need a relaxing ballad to listen to on their way in this morning. The N1 is at a standstill from Pretoria to Centurion." Sometimes there really are no problematic issues for a traffic reporter to talk about. However, that doesn't mean there's nothing to say. A traffic reporter can provide assurance that things are currently normal and they can support listeners' viewpoints as they are driving to their various destinations. Make traffic reports fun. Traffic can really ruin a person's day right before it starts. So setting an upbeat and a positive tone will make it easier for people to relax and not to let any issues on the road stress them out. This is about being relatable and helpful in terms of traffic. Instead of presenting all of the problems and just adding to the mental burden of your listeners, give them information to help them navigate their way through the traffic. And you can do this by offering an alternative route when there's a collision or a backup on a main road. This helps listeners see their roads in their mind's eye and to course correct because they can hear and understand the alternatives available to them. Credibility matters, so be on time and get it right. Remember that traffic and weather together are important. Traffic and weather are often the reasons people tune in regularly to news and news talk radio. Traffic and weather reports should be accurate and delivered consistently during the key drive times. Listeners respond to and seek accurate information. Traffic announcing and reporting can also be a great entry into broadcasting, okay? If you work for a traffic service, you may have a chance to add news writing and anchoring to your list of skills. As long as there are people in cars, there will be a need for traffic reporting. It's best if your station can have weather reports given by someone who sounds likable and conversational. If possible, help train your weather presenters. Make sure they talk as if they're speaking to only one person and not to all you guys out there. If you've ever been stuck in a traffic jam, you know how vital the information can be. Even satellite radio networks offer local traffic updates. Stations have found ratings and financial benefits by promoting and delivering frequent reports at specific times. Audiences will tune in at the exact minute they have been trained to expect the latest traffic report. Be on time, get it right. Never say there are no stalls or accidents. You're tempting fate. Instead, try no reports of any stalls or accidents. If you declare it's all clear, the situation may immediately change and you'll lose credibility. What you said moments ago may no longer be correct. Give the location of the traffic holdup before you detail what happened. People first want to know, is it near me? Before they want to know anything else. What is your source? Traffic presenters need to make sure that you know where your information is coming from and how old each item is. If we look at the weather specifically, on the other hand, writing, compiling, and reporting on weather are about allowing people to prepare for their day, okay, or for the week, or even the month ahead from the comfort of their own homes. So weather forecasts inform seemingly small things, like how you dress on that particular day, whether or not you can carry an umbrella, which route you take to work, and how much sunblock to wear. However, they also inform much more significant events, such as road and air traffic, farming and agriculture, and natural disasters and emergency preparedness and responsiveness. As a result, they form an expected part of the information that we expect from our comprehensive radio stations. There are meteorologists around the world who work tirelessly by using science and mathematics to predict the world's weather and climate. As a weather reporter, your job is to collate their daily findings and predict their daily findings and predictions and disseminate that information to the relevant people listening in the regions that that station covers. Like traffic, the amount of information contained in the weather report will depend on which station is broadcasting this information and to which region it's broadcasted. For instance, if you're compiling and presenting weather reports on a station that broadcasts to a wide range of areas and people, for example, a national news station, you would have more information to try and fit into what would seem like a more limited amount of time. Whereas if you were compiling for and reporting for a more localized station, you would probably have more room to cover all of the significant areas in that region. The most important thing to remember when writing and reporting the weather is always to start with whatever is the most urgent and most unusual. While weather can be benign, it can also be life-threatening, and these are the situations that make it vital to pre-warn your audience so that they can prepare themselves for what may come. Minimum and maximum temperatures are what everyone is probably tuning into here, but severe weather warnings such as predictions of droughts, cyclones, hurricanes, fires due to heat waves, extremely windy and dry conditions, lightning storms, tsunamis, and volcanic ash spewing into or raining from the sky are things that make weather reporters the true heroes in their field. People have immediate access to almost any information that they need, and they have this at their fingertips. This does not make the work of compiling and reporting on weather redundant. In fact, it makes their job much easier. All of the information that you need to compile and present a weather report, could previously only be gathered from engaging with and monitoring the feeds of local, regional, provincial, and local and national weather departments, meteorological centers, and information hubs. Now, all this information is sourced from the internet. Being a weather reporter comprises analyzing, collating, and presenting this information, beginning with whatever is the most urgent or unusual, like I've said previously, and then moving to the expected minimum and maximum temperature. This includes what the temperature will actually feel like, sometimes referred to as the real feel, as well as the overall conditions that may include the chance, kind, and expected time of precipitation, whether it's rain or snow or anything else falling from the sky, the wind speed and direction, sunrise and sunset times, and even the phase of the moon. The phases of the moon can be significant because they affect all sorts of things, from ocean tides to religious festivals. Please go to page 205 and 206 in your textbook Next Level Radio. You'll see at the bottom of page 205, there's example 5D, which is a weather report. So please go and read that. Okay, you'll see it continues on page 206. Okay, so we went through a lot of information again in this lecture, a lot of information on traffic and on weather, on how to broadcast it, on where to get the sources, okay, on who will hear it, how you will do it. Let's quickly go through this quiz, and I want you to please answer this yourself so that you can see whether you understood the work that we just went through or not. So multiple choice, choose the best answer according to the text. Number 1, traffic and weather reports are best delivered by A, experts in these areas, B, someone who sounds likable and conversational, C, a traffic cop or meteorologist, or D, the radio show announcer. Number 2, a listener getting dressed for work in the morning would be most interested in A, whether a low or high pressure system is causing the current conditions, B, the low temperature for the evening, C, what it's like outside, or D, the high temperature yesterday. Number 3, the best way to describe a traffic jam on the Metro bypass would be A, our eye in the sky reporter tells us an 18-wheeler is flipped on its side, blocking 3 lanes of the Metro bypass. B, everything is clear right now on the Metro bypass. C, cars are piling up on the Metro bypass. Or D, we have unconfirmed reports of motorists going the wrong way on the Metro bypass. And then 2 true or false questions. Number 4, where is the most important fact listeners want to know about in traffic? Listeners want to know in a traffic report. And number 5, traffic spotters are typically people who only want airtime. And then a short answer question. Describe the ingredients of a good traffic or weather report. Why are listeners interested in these ingredients? How should these ingredients be mixed together to provide a traffic or a weather report listeners will enjoy or find beneficial? Okay, so please answer all of these in your own time. And if you've gone through it and you still don't understand something, please ask me. Okay, so that brings us to the end of this lecture. So we've now looked at some news, we've looked at weather and we've looked at traffic, meaning next we're going to start with the sports section of it. And with that, it's time for me to say goodbye until next time. So bye.